Hello, Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, for the past couple of weeks, been gone on an anniversary vacation, but now we're back on the air.
Great. Let's get started.
As we get closer to Election Day, I've had an increasing number of people contacting me asking questions about Amendment 2. There are going to be two different proposed changes to the Kentucky Constitution that will be on your ballot on Election Day. Now, these changes might be on the side of the ballot, the bottom. Sometimes it'll be on the back side of your ballot, depending on what county you are from. So make sure you check for those. If you just hit the straight ticket voting, then you did not vote on the proposed amendments. You didn't vote yes or no. So make sure that you look for those and hit where you want to hit yes or no. The first proposed amendment is pretty straightforward. It simply says you must be a citizen in order to vote in Kentucky elections. Now, at first you might be thinking,
Of course
you have to be a citizen. However, we have seen some other states, there have been some liberally controlled cities that have gone against what the state legislature want, and they've allowed illegal people to vote in our elections. To cut that off at the pass, the state legislature is putting right in the Constitution of the Commonwealth, you must be a citizen in order to vote, and that would ensure liberal cities such as Louisville or others wouldn't let illegals vote in our elections. But the second proposed amendment is the one we're going to be talking about today, and this has to do with school choice. There's been a lot of questions about this, so first of all, I'm going to show you what it's going to say on your ballot. This is the wording you'll see. To give parents choices and educational opportunities for their children, are you in favor of enabling the General Assembly to provide financial support for the education cost of students in kindergarten through 12th grade who are outside of the system of common public schools by amending the Constitution of Kentucky as stated below? So that's it, straightforward. This law does not do anything to set up something special for school vouchers, for homeschools, for Christian schools, tax credits. It doesn't do any of those things, despite what you are being told. All this amendment does would allow the state legislature to come up with plans so they could fund other than public schools. They would still be under all of the requirements to continue to fund the public schools like they are. But this would allow them to also fund other things, because right now the public schools have a monopoly on what's going on. And it would give parents the opportunity to have choices for their education of their children. Right now, Kentucky is one of only two states in the entire nation that doesn't have some form of school choice in their law. You realize 48 states have parents' rights and school choice. Kentucky is only one of two states who don't. Now, I've heard some who are opposing this say, and they tell you all the bad things this has to do with school vouchers. Now, whenever I hear somebody talking about you should vote no because of school vouchers, it makes me want to say two different things.
Two things, okay? Shut up.
That's right. You're going to get people talking about school vouchers and all these other things, which are not in this amendment at all. It's not even mentioned. So they're coming up with things which don't actually exist. There are some homeschoolers who are concerned that this would be a way for the state to start getting some control of homeschoolers because they would be giving them money, and if you give money, it gets control. Keep this in mind. Nowhere in this has it talked about homeschoolers. Nothing says we're going to be even offering them any money at all. So that is not a concern. We homeschooled our kids, and I'm a severe watchdog to protect homeschool rights in Kentucky, and this amendment is not a threat to homeschooling rights in Kentucky. I will be keeping an eye on any future legislation that might be impacting this, and will be sure to share that information with you. When we're looking at who is really for this and who is against it, it gives us a good clue if this is a good piece of legislation or if it is bad. First of all, who's against it? Andy Beshear's against this. Anything Andy Beshear is against, I'm probably for, and vice versa. Who else is against this? Well, the Democratic Party is opposing this. Well, again, that gives me a good clue. Anything that they're against, I'm probably for. And of course, the woke organizations are spending millions of dollars to try to kill this parent choice amendment. And so they're spending tons of money to keep you from having a choice. Well, that gives me a good clue that we really should be for that. So who is for this amendment number 2? Well, first of all, some wonderful organizations in Kentucky, one of them being the Family Foundation of Kentucky, maybe the premier conservative organization fighting for family rights. Yours truly is for it, and several other conservative Republicans throughout the state. So what I see is the woke leftist radical crowd against it, and I'm seeing all kinds of conservatives for it. That gives me a good clue that this would be something that is going to be good for the state of Kentucky. Some people say, well, this allows for charter schools, and they say, well, that's a private industry and that's bad. First of all, I think private industry is a good thing. It's better than the way the government runs most stuff. And do you realize what a charter school is? A charter school is a public school that must comply with all the regulations and requirements a public school has, but it is run by and administered by a private company. So when you talk about public dollars for public schools, charter schools are public schools.
Everybody got that? Good.
But they're simply being administered by a private company. And again, private companies find ways to do things better. Right now, we've got the government-controlled public schools, and they have a monopoly on things. Whenever you have any group have a monopoly, you have increased prices with decreased quality. However, if we could get the state legislature to get this amendment passed, then we would have competition. Competition increases quality and decreases cost every single time. And talking about quality, if you'd like to see the quality of education in Kentucky, I did an entire episode on this a few weeks ago. This is the thumbnail to look for. And what we do is I show you from the Kentucky Department of Education's own website the information on how are Kentucky public schools doing? Are they doing a good job or not? This is one of the information graphics from that, and you will see, according to their own website, this is the grades they get as far as kids that are proficient in their subjects. And you will see in every single subject, for every single grade level, the Kentucky Department of Education, by their own website, is failing Kentucky students. So you know what? I think it would be good if we started getting some competition and allowed parents to have a choice in their child's education. Now, I've heard some who are against this saying, oh, well, if this Amendment 2 passes, then they're going to split your property tax and you're going to have to pay 2 different taxes. And when I hear that, I think this.
Shut up.
That's right. This says nothing about splitting property taxes. They have literally made that up and drawn it out of the sky. It has nothing to do with saying kids can't go to school anymore. It's not going to increase the price of school lunches. It doesn't have anything to do saying that the schools aren't even going to get all the funding they're getting now. It would simply allow the state of Kentucky to fund more than public schools. The public schools are still funded. Now we can also help parents with school choice in a myriad of different ways. And we'll be keeping an eye on what they have in mind and the good or bad things of any legislation which would come out of this. So I think this is a very good idea. This is a wonderful piece of legislation that I think will greatly benefit the parents and students of Kentucky. And I hope that you will be voting yes on Amendment 2. Well, that's the news we have for this week. So until next week, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.
Everybody got that? Good.